All right, our next speaker is Dr. John Challis. He's the former Director of Science Programs at the ABC, and he's also the founder of ComSuper, the founder of the ComSuper Act, and on the committee, which led to the way in which same-sex couples were regarded in superannuation.
My partner of 47 years, Arthur Cheeseman, apologises for not being here for the photo opportunity. But he's rather shy and frail. He fully endorses everything I'm going to say. Let me acknowledge the wonderful support that we received from Tanya Plibersek, Anthony Albanese, Robert McClelland, Warren Ench, Malcolm Turnbull, Greg Hunt, and many others on both sides of politics in the long battle to get same-sex couples legally recognised as de facto relationships in 2008. After that, Arthur and I felt that because marriage had so much religious and sentimental baggage attached to it, it was better to let the churches continue to own it and be satisfied with some form of civil union, provided they were not second-rate ghetto relationships, but were also available to heterosexual couples. However, in November 2010, I was waiting for a plane at the Hobart Airport, and I read a remarkable editorial in the Hobart Mercury, a conservative Murdoch paper. The editorial was headed, "Marriage Redefined," and it said, quote, "Marriage is not what it used to be. It has been redefined radically over the past 200 years, and especially in the past half-century. It is no longer exclusively religious. The state has taken over, and marriage is now a legal status. Given that marriage is now simply a legal definition, it would be pure discrimination to say that same-sex couples are not allowed to be treated equally before the law. The law should be changed." End of quote. Let me remind you, that was 2010. As soon as we got back to Sydney, Arthur and I wrote a letter to the Mercury, which was published the next day. And it said, "The Mercury editorial has convinced us that the radical changes to marriage over the past 50 years mean that the churches no longer own marriage. We will now wholeheartedly campaign for same-sex marriage." I'm sorry, the terminology is a bit out of date. Despite the scientific evidence, many MPs, such as Barnaby Joyce, church leaders, such as Fred Nile, continue to believe that homosexuality is simply a reversible lifestyle choice. I was educated as a Catholic and trained for the priesthood. I was firmly indoctrinated with the belief that homosexuality is a grave, unnatural, evil perversion at the core of a person's being. As a young priest, I was terrified by the suspicion that I might be homosexual and attracted to other men. To free myself from this torment, I decided to prove to myself that I wasn't homosexual by going to a brothel and having sex with a female. Of course, it didn't work. As soon as the girl started to take off her clothes, I felt sick and fled. She earned her money easily that night. I didn't choose to be gay. I was born gay. Let me quote from an article by a Sydney barrister, John Zerilli, in that ultra-conservative journal Quadrant. The article was headed, "Why Conservatives Should Support Same-Sex Marriage." Quote, "New facts are in and have been available from professional clinicians, psychiatrists and psychologists for decades. The facts are that people do not choose their sexual orientation any more than people choose to be left-handed or right-handed. People simply have no choice in the matter of their sexual orientation." And the article goes on, "Armed with this new information, it ought to be conservatives spearheading the debate about making prudent and long overdue changes to marriage laws. Only to a person who still thinks homosexual orientation is a matter of choice would it occur that marriage should remain the preserve of heterosexuals." End of quote. The Irish people, with whom many Australians, including myself, my mother's name was O'Shannessy, have common ancestors, and they have decisively rejected the domination of their discredited and reactionary bishops, and they have voted according to their individual consciences for marriage equality. As Rodney Croom said to me earlier, we're all Irish now. In 1985, the then Liberal Attorney General Tom Hughes, the father of Lucy Turnbull, introducing the bill to legalise homosexuality, said this: "In a pluralist society, it is not part of the function of the law to uphold or preserve the Judeo-Christian tradition simply because it exists." I call on all members of the Australian Parliament to resist the outmoded influence of the Australian Christian Lobby and the Catholic Bishops' Conference, including the residual influence of Tony Abbott's great friend Cardinal Pell, and for them to vote according to their individual consciences for what they instinctively know is just and fair, and what more than 70% of Australians know is just and fair, namely marriage equality before the law for all citizens, irrespective of their sexual orientation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. And before I introduce our next speaker, I also just want to acknowledge the great work of a number of other gay and lesbian LGBTI organisations that work so hard for our community. There's the Gay and Lesbian Rights Lobby, there's Mardi Gras, there's ACON, and there's people who've been running rallies for a number of years, and that's Community Action Against Homophobia, and they join us today. So a big thank you to them.